Hello and welcome to episode 95 of the Game for All show. My name is Sean and I'm joined by Mr. Eat Sleep Game himself, Luke. How you doing, Luke?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good.
Tired, but alive.
Good to hear it. I haven't been on the show for a while, so I've got a lot to say, a lot to catch up on. And in true Game for All fashion these days, it's just the two of us, so we're missing Jordan, who is preoccupied today. I think he said he had work arrangements, something along those lines. So hopefully we'll catch him with Jordan and get his thoughts on the latest news, which is coming in hot, which we'll be discussing today, of Square Enix selling off a big chunk of their Western studios.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But before we jump into the news of the week, we always discuss here what we've been playing. Now, before I get going, Luke, I'm gonna let you have your say on what you've been playing, because I obviously haven't been on for a while, so I've been playing some things.
Yeah. I covered most of it last week. But me and my brother started playing the Portal 2 co-op stuff because I'd never played that before. And it's spectacular.
Yeah, it's like a whole game in itself, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is, and it's like a prequel to the original game as well, I think, which I did not know. So that was an awesome little bit as well. But yeah, we motored through that. We finished that, and now I'm just playing through Portal 2 again.
Amazing.
Because
yeah.
I still have that itch, and I've just got to the old aperture bit where Cave Johnson's talking, and it's second to none. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Portal 2 is easily in my sort of top 5 favorites of all time. Annoyingly, like, I've tried to go back to a couple times, never like played it all the way through again. So I've just played it all the way through once, both co-op and single player. But I think I took more away from the co-op because, I mean, the single player is amazing, and you get that great voice acting, especially from Stephen Merchant.
Yeah.
But I just remember the co-op so clearly because of how clever it was. Like it was kind of like incredible level design without trying to pretend that it wasn't level design. You know how like some games they try so hard to not make the player aware that they're playing through a level, right? It's like, this is recreating life, this is a real environment and we want you to feel immersed in the game. Whereas Portal is very much like, no, you go level to level and there's nothing to distract you from the fact that it is just about genius level design.
Yeah.
It's clever.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and like the single player stuff is just as good for me. Like it's just spectacular. Like I've never laughed so much. Well, in a very long time playing a game anyway. Like I wish more games would do this because it's just so like it's the closest thing to a perfect game, I think. Like it's just spectacular in every way. There is generally not a bad thing about it. It's insane how good it is.
Oh man.
Same with the first Portal as well, to be fair.
Yeah. It's a little bit smaller in scope, but it's essentially the same game. Like it's the physics and the gameplay loop is exactly the same. But it's just what they do with. Obviously, it's about portals, and they do some clever stuff with portals. But it's the momentum that some of the levels require.
Yeah.
And when you figure it out and pull it off, I think you need both of those to go hand in hand.
Yeah. There's genuinely nothing like it when you hit that eureka moment with it. It's like, and then you like, because like I said, it is both the things. It's like, okay, I figured it out, but now I actually have to do it. And when you get both, it's just it's the best thing. It's up there with like Power Wash Simulator, like the most satisfying things in the world. It's incredible. I'd kill for either another one or for like a meeting of Portal and Half-Life.
Sure.
I fully expect if there's a Half-Life 3, the portal gun's going to be in it probably, or like something. I don't know, but like
thing is,
I would just love more.
It's such a simple premise that anyone could really pick up and play with. We saw obviously Splitgate, one of my favorite games the last couple of years. Take the principle and put it into an FPS. Great, I love that. Really fun, but it does make me think that you could make some party games out of it. Like mix Human Fall Flat with Portal, like just build on the physics. And
I mean, the only other thing we got was that bridge constructor game.
Yeah. Portal, I love you. Anything else you've been playing?
No,
okay.
Not other than that, really. It does remind me that there is a very good I think it's another mod that you can buy separately that's built a full game, whereas like a prequel, it's called Portal Stories Mel, I believe.
Okay.
And it's Portal, but it's when Aperture was in its peak, essentially.
Okay, interesting.
Which is, or like just as it's fallen apart or something like that, which I highly recommend people play.
Nice one. Cool. Are you going to see that one through, or were you kind of just messing with it because you're in between things?
I think I'm just going to keep going.
Nice.
I'm just going to keep going because it's nice. It's a nice kind of, because obviously I've got all the stuff I'm doing on the channel anyway, which obviously I've been playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a bit of
I
Elden
forgot
Ring.
about this,
Yeah.
but it's because they're like pre-recorded. Like I haven't played some of those for like a week, but yeah, I'm doing Elden Ring.
Tunic.
I'm doing Tunic, which is fantastic, and I've got the Lego Star Wars game. The first episode has come out today of recording.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to playing that Star Wars game, but I want to play it with some friends. So, like, get them around, and just have a.
The only thing I will say about it is it's kind of abrupt how it goes from level bit to level bit sort of thing. You go from like story beat to story beat, just you go to a thing and it just asks you if you want to continue, and then you press yes, and then you move on to the next bit.
Right.
It's weird. It's kind of like an abridged version of Star Wars.
Of course. Yeah.
It's still cool. There's still a lot to like about it. It's still very fun and very stupid.
Yeah.
It does the slapstick stuff that a lot of people seem to be afraid to do these days, but I love. It's just stupid stuff like Jar Jar being dumb in the background, and like there's a bit where he's just uncontrollably spinning around, and it's just stupid funny. But yeah, other than the abrupt nature of like going to the next like story bit, fantastic. It's a Lego Star Wars game.
Amazing.
What more could you ask for?
Yeah, it looks particularly good as well. Like it looks like they put a lot of care into the visuals. I was kind of expecting it just to be kind of an up-resed version of the old ones, but it looks like they've overhauled a lot of it.
I was kind of expecting that as well, but it looks. I know there are some jokes that I was expecting to see, like when you're interacting with young Anakin for the first time, and then you got I forget his name, but the guy he's enslaved to in the background selling like red flags and doing stupid jokes like that. That's not in it, and I was gutted. I was like, that's such a great joke, but it's not there.
Shame.
It's missing some of the, but then it's kind of like, well, I could just play those anyway, sort of thing. So it is kind of, they have to change something, otherwise it is a bit cash grabby, I guess.
Sure.
But
I'm with you.
No, it's good. It's very good.
Nice one.
Very good.
I've been playing a whole bunch. Bit of a mixed bag. I finished replaying GTA 5 on the Xbox Series X. That was a delight. Loved it. Have very few complaints given it's a dated game now. It's nearly 10 years old. So with that in mind, I'm just amazed that they pulled that off back then on the 360 and PS3. I just an absolute marvel. And I think we'll probably say the same of Red Dead before the end of this generation. When they do release it again, I'm sure we'll get that next gen patch, and then we'll think, how did they do this on Xbox One?
Very excited for that.
Yeah.
Very excited. That would be cool.
And then I kind of, because that was a good 30, 40 hours, so I just wanted some smaller things to mess around with. And I actually jumped into Nintendo Switch Online, the 64 content, and I messed around with a few of them, but I actually got stuck in Mario Golf 64. What a fucking classic that is.
Gotcha.
It's so hard, and I've put in now 10 hours into that, just sort of playing it in between things. I still haven't unlocked Mario. Like, that's how hard that game is. So I've unlocked Peach, Luigi, Wario, and I'm stuck on Mario, and I don't even know what to do. Like, it's not to unlock each character, you have to beat them in match play. So it's basically over 18 holes. You have to win 10 of them. And most of my rounds against Mario go to the very 18th hole, and I'm losing around that point. So like 16, 17, 18. And at that point, I've put like an hour into it. So like, this game is not messing around. I'm loving it. I think it's really good. I think it's like systematically really strong. I think some of the physics of the game, wind, elevation, playing from like it's a good arcade golf game. It's just you get accustomed to these modern games like Everybody's Golf and whatnot, and they're so forgiving. But what a gem. What a gem. And then I've also been playing, I tried out, I only probably put about an hour into it. I think it's called Wasteland Golf. And it's the story-driven 2D golf game. I'm playing it on Switch. And it's got this cool narrative about how humans wrecked Earth, flew to Mars, and then they go back to Earth just to play golf in the wreckage. Weird little indie game. It's really clever. Sure. Unfortunately, I think the level design's a little bit weak. I find it quite frustrating, but the art's really cool. The story's great, and there's this ongoing radio station that's playing throughout the game, and it's giving you these little insights into what Earth was like, what happened, what life is like on Mars, and really little clever indie. I just fancy playing. It was on sale on the Switch store, and I remember seeing, is it Shinobi on Twitter? No, yeah. You know, he's like the sort of news influencer. Yeah, the studio he works for, and I can't remember the name of them. It's one of their games, a really, really small indie game, but I kind of recommend it. I think it's worth just checking out, I suppose, but especially if you like golf, but also if you just like sort of interesting narratives, short narrative-driven games. So that's been interesting. I might go back to it. I think the level design is a little bit iffy, but it's fun enough. You're essentially just doing like Angry Birds. So you kind of hold down the power, choose your angle, and it sort of flings the ball up.
Right, sure.
As opposed to Angry Birds where you're demolishing things, you're obviously trying to get a ball into a hole. But the courses aren't courses. You're playing through like wreckage, and it's clever how they construct these courses. It's just sometimes they're a bit frustrating, and the physics is a little bit...
In my head, it's like, I'm imagining playing golf in the Earth of Wall-E.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, you're not too far away. And your guy's equipped with a jetpack, so wherever you hit the ball, he just sort of flies across the screen.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's really a nice game. Lovely music, and the radio station's a really nice touch.
Yeah, I love it when games do that. Like, you can have just a whatever, any kind of random game, but then you put like interesting lore in the background. I love that shit.
Exactly.
That sort of thing, like game theories all over, and that I love that stuff.
And it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's free, and it doesn't require a lot of work and attention. But if you're an indie studio and you don't have the budget to stand out from a gameplay or a visual point of view, you can do a lot with audio. And you can do a lot with music that can elevate the game. I'm thinking of things like, or in writing as well, like world building. All of these things you can do low budget, and it really adds to the experience. So they nailed it.
That was something I really loved about Control. Right. I found so many of the documents you could pick up really interesting because they do such a good job of building the world and like giving background on weapons and stuff like that.
Sure.
Very, very cool stuff.
And then finally, continuing on with my indie theme, I've finally got into Death's Door. So now I would say I'm about 5 hours in.
Yes.
I know it's one of your personal faves.
I'm a happy boy,
Yeah, I'm very much enjoying it. I'm glad I'm playing it. And it's... I haven't been able to put my finger on what's actually pulling me through the game because I don't love the combat. It's by no means bad. I think it's like serviceable like a Zelda. Top down like an old school Zelda is. Maybe a little bit better than that. And I think the gameplay design, it's Souls-like in that you die and you go back to your last checkpoint. However, it's a Souls-light, let's say, because you hold on to your souls. Yes. So there's not a huge penalty for dying, except the long trek back to where you came from. Now, it's not excessive. It's usually about 30 seconds from dying to making your way back to wherever you left off. But I find it, in a Souls game, it's kind of punishment. It's to make you feel like you shouldn't take chances with your life, and it's this risk-reward thing. It's like, do you go for the next checkpoint, or do you go back and consolidate your souls and be like, I've got a good stash, I don't want to lose this. There's none of that tension in this. There's no real penalty for dying apart from an annoyance to the player. And I find it was a weird decision that there's no risk-reward.
Yeah, I remember hearing them or reading them talk about not having you lose your like souls equivalent in this.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to make it, I guess, that punishing sort of thing.
Sure.
But that's where you do have to work your way back to where you were sort of thing is. In Tunic, you do lose your souls and you have to pick them back up.
Oh, is that Souls-like as well?
Yes,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's pretty much just a more colorful Death's Door,
Interesting. Okay.
and I love it. It's great.
But yeah, there's a lot to like in Death's Door. I think the music and the sounds and the writing it's oddly funny because it's quite a serious tone.
Oh yeah.
It's all about death and freeing these souls from like these from I don't know, purgatory or wherever these souls are stuck, and you're kind of freeing them to properly leave. I don't really understand. Like, you're in this world of doors and you're helping people escape.
Do you say you beat the Frog King?
I have just beaten the Frog King.
I believe you start to figure out what's going on very soon, because the next area you're in is very relevant to who you're working for and stuff like that.
Right.
So you start to put stuff together.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of the
I see.
sort of moment.
Okay.
It's not quite like the moment that you get in Forgotten City, for instance, but it does come together, and it has got a satisfying kind of conclusion. And then when you finish it, there's a bit more you can do afterwards as well.
Okay, interesting. Well, I think there's going to be a lot for me to go back and do, because I've clearly missed all these shrines where you can upgrade your health and magic. So I feel like I'm a little bit underpowered going through all these levels. So there's three different, I guess, mechanics going on in the game. You have souls where you can use to upgrade like strength, magic, dexterity, and movement. And that is just like notches. So I think each one has like 5 upgrades that you can do. Then you can also upgrade your health and magic, sort of stamina, I suppose, your mana, let's say, through finding shrines in the world. And then you also get new weapons as you're going through the game. Now, I haven't found much of any of them, and so I feel like I'm missing out on some things. And you're obviously it's got Metroid elements. So every time you defeat a dungeon, you get a tool like in Zelda where you can unlock then other areas of the world. So I kind of need to backtrack. So I'm enjoying it, and I'm deep into it. I thought it was going to be something I sort of touch and maybe play a couple hours and be like, oh, I've seen this, and I can move away from it. But I'm in. Like I'm halfway in. I want to say beating the Frog King is probably about halfway.
Yes.
It's asking me to get 3 major souls. I've got 2 of them, and then I figure there's some kind of main boss after the third mega soul that I get.
Yeah.
But it's living up. Like I was skeptical last year. I think a lot of people were just crying out for like that the indie of the year last year, and Death's Door was definitely one of those. But it's better than that. I would say it's obviously got like it's a touch above just any old good indie that stumbles its way onto the consciousness of gamers. So I'm happy I'm playing it. And I'm keen to play Tunic as well, but I fear that running from one strain to the other will not be the smartest thing.
I'd probably take a break in between, unless you find, like I did with Link's Awakening, where this is my new favorite thing.
Right, your new sort of favorite genre.
Yeah. I adore these now. This is
I have to say, it's slightly different, but in terms of gameplay, and structure, it's very similar. You should play Nobody Saves the World.
I have that downloaded.
Yeah.
I haven't played it for a minute, but last week I said I was playing Link. Shit, which one am I playing? Damn it. Link to the Past.
Okay, all right. Well, proper old school.
On the back burner. Yeah. Through the NES. No, the SNES stuff on
Switch.
On the Switch.
It works surprisingly well. Everything looks really good.
Very well.
Yeah, everything looks good.
Yeah. It's very good.
So I'm enjoying the N64 stuff, and now we're getting those leaks of GBA. Is it GBA?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was GBA.
I'm very excited. Like I do wonder how far they're going to go. I would imagine they might stretch to GameCube.
That's
for some things.
I think a lot of people are really.
I really hope so. But I mean, I have a GameCube, so it's not the end of the world if not. I wouldn't be upset if they stopped with N64. I imagine there's more Sega stuff coming first.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
GameCube.
Yeah, you're probably right.
They'll probably do, I forget which one's actually on there, but they'll probably do the other Sega consoles first, which will be interesting.
Yeah, I fear because Nintendo went really license heavy when they started going to Nintendo. They had a lot of Star Wars games and James Bond games and things like that. That I wonder if they could still put out.
Well, that was N64, wasn't it? They kind of reverted a bit back into when they went into the GameCube, because people didn't buy into the GameCube as much, which is a shame.
I think
I love the GameCube.
To be honest, N64 and GameCube both struggled. They're not very popular consoles, really, in the grand scheme of things. They're like cult classics.
Yeah, N64's got it in hindsight, but I never really got it with the N64. I didn't think it was what people look on as they do today.
Yeah, for me, it's the heyday of gaming, but I appreciate it's kind of like you have to be in the right household. Some households probably went all in on PS1 and like never looked back. And then like my house, me and my brother and our friends, it was all N64 and PlayStation with this. It was like, ick,
yeah. I mean, I was PlayStation growing up, but the older I get, the more I'm just, like I said, these like Zelda games, I'm just
discovering them,
absolutely loving. So like the SNES is probably my place at the minute. I love that console so much.
Lovely stuff. Okay.
I should grow up with one.
That's, I think, all I've been playing. I installed NBA 2K22 on Game Pass for about 5 minutes. I played one game and I realized like I don't have the memory, the controller memory like I do with FIFA.
I used to really like them, and then all of a sudden I just completely lost it and was terrible at those games.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened. Because I didn't stop playing it. It was just one day. I think they like updated it and like changed how some stuff worked. And then I was just terrible at it. And I was like, I'm just not enjoying this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there probably is a mode in there, just like every other sports game, where it's like you can play a 5-button mode where it's just like there's shoot, there's dribble, there's pass, and there's like set up and alley-oop. And I kind of wanted it to be that old school arcade basketball fun. And it was like, no, this is the FIFA of basketball games. And I was I don't have 20 hours to put into this, so I was like, thanks, but no thanks. And it's kind of how I felt about MLB The Show.
Sure. I take it you're going to download FIFA 22.
I will be, on PlayStation. I thought it was going to be Xbox because I assumed it was coming to Game Pass soon.
I was really shocked that that's coming to PlayStation Plus before it's going to be on Game Pass. Well,
we'll see.
Maybe, unless they're like, oh, actually, we'll put it on now. Which wouldn't surprise me.
All right, so that's what we've been playing, and now for the big topic of the show, which is it's coming in hot. It came in this morning, so we're recording this at around 4:00 in the afternoon, and this news came out 9:00 this morning, UK time, that the Embracer Group has purchased Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal from Square Enix for a whopping, I'm saying sarcastically, $300 million.
That includes all, well, maybe not all, it's a bit muddy, but there's a catalogue of IPs as well that they now own, including Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and Legacy of Kain. Yeah. Which is extremely interesting.
So what's your gut feeling on this one?
I don't know, because I was a bit worried about what was going to happen, especially with Crystal Dynamics, because they seem to be kind of in a bit of a weird limbo where they'd gone over and they were doing the stuff with Xbox. And
which I should say as well, we've had confirmation from the initiative that their agreement with Crystal Dynamics has not been interrupted. This will not affect
Interesting.
Crystal Dynamics' work on Perfect Dark.
But I'm a massive fan of Tomb Raider, so I hope, because Square have got this bad habit of it only sold X amount. It's like, yeah, but it still did good. It still did well. Like, that was the problem with Deus Ex. It sold well for what it was, but they were like, well, no, we wanted X amount more. It's like, but it's Deus Ex. Yeah, it's not this massive IP. Like, it is a well-known and fairly beloved IP, but it's not like gonna do gangbusters. It's in its lane. I don't know what this means for Guardians of the Galaxy. I hope it means we still get another one. I'm pretty sure this means that Avengers are dead, which but there's stuff like Legacy of Kain. I said last week, because I answered the question for when I wasn't on, about like a series that I'd like to see come back or get a remake or whatever. And I said Legacy of Kain because that'd be sick. Now we might actually get it.
Might get it. Yeah, it was interesting that it was definitely mentioned in the agreement or in the press release from Embracer Group that they're excited to get their hands on those three IP in particular: Tomb Raider, obviously, Deus Ex, which was a bit surprising because I think a lot of people would have rightly assumed that kind of franchise maybe was taking a long hiatus until there was any kind of demand for it. And Legacy of Kain, which we haven't seen for like well over a decade, I want to say.
Oh yeah.
So my initial feeling is it's a bargain, and you can maybe have your opinion on whether Crystal Dynamics and Eidos are worth that money because they've been their output has been iffy, and then it's also underperformed from a sales point of view. So Square's been really open that Avengers was a flop, and they've also been open that Guardians was not a sales success, and they had to depend on Game Pass to make some of that money back.
Yeah.
To which they said they were happy with the new audience it was finding. So
yeah, and kind of putting the blame where it is actually, dude. That was entirely on Square as well.
Yeah,
Square.
They didn't market
were
it
the
well.
ones. Well, it's not just that. It is, they're the ones that pushed for Avengers to be what it was, and Crystal were not the right studio to do that.
Sure.
So they are, I'm not surprised that Guardians didn't sell well after, what happened with Avengers, because people were just going to be like, oh, it's another Marvel game from Square.
Yeah,
maybe not, sort of thing.
That kind of stuff.
Guardians was great.
Yeah, I mean the Avengers stuff and the relationship that CD had with Square, all of this just makes me think that Square was so fed up with Crystal Dynamics, the leaks about the stories, that they didn't want to do it. The online live service thing. They probably didn't like being thrown under the bus, that the sales were underperforming or whatever. And I could just see that there was this clash, and it was like an East versus West thing. And Square's just like, fuck it. We're going to keep everything in Japan, lock it down. These studios here make money, and they listen to what we want, and they just do it. Whether they want it, whether, we're going to make some random spin-off Final Fantasy game or like they're chucking out the biggest mixed bag of quality, I'd say, of any publisher at the moment. Like from one moment, it's a massive hit. And that could be anything from like
I think actually,
Triangle Strategy and Octopath.
Yeah.
All the way to the other end of the spectrum where they're chucking out things like, it wasn't Balan Wonder. No, Balan wasn't.
Yeah.
Was that Square? Yeah.
Yeah, that was Square. Yeah. I think it's kind of ironic because the period they had about 5 years ago where they were releasing good quality stuff was Tomb Raider, it was Deus Ex, it was those kind of things that were kind of hitting that kind of 8 kind of level, especially like that second Tomb Raider game.
Yeah,
like that sort of stuff was reviewing well. It was just I don't know if it wasn't marketed well or if it was put out at a wrong time and it clashed with something else. I know the second Tomb Raider game with the Xbox exclusivity thing for a year really hurt it.
Yeah, I mean...
that was stupid.
Interestingly, Tomb Raider... Sorry, just to add this little tidbit of information. Tomb Raider is one of an odd example where this new reboot trilogy, each iteration sold less than the previous one. And typically... you see the trend go the other way, where the first one gets a ton of hype, it sells okay, and the next one is a massive hit. And we didn't see that, so...
I guarantee it would have been if they didn't do the stupid Xbox thing.
Probably. And that game was phenomenal. Like, it's a top-class game.
Incredible. Yeah. It's the main reason I prefer it over Uncharted, because that game is fantastic.
Yeah.
Genuinely
I never
incredible.
played Shadow, I'll admit. Interestingly, my brother recently played it. Said it was excellent. Said it was really, really good.
It's very good.
Yeah,
it's very good. The whole trilogy is fantastic. Like, I love that trilogy so much, and it is a shame that it wasn't handled as well as it could have been. It did feel like the final one was a bit rushed and just kind of put out in the end, but it was still a very good game. It was just kind of... it was almost like Square had lost interest, sort of thing. Because I mean, it was only a month ago where like I think it was their president said that Japanese devs should stick to making Japanese style games and not trying to make Western style games. And now a month later, this has happened. So it's clearly something that's been on their mind.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if it was a case that they've shopped them out rather than, having Embracer actually come in and have the interest outside.
Yeah. And let's be honest, like, okay, we might really rate those Tomb Raider games, and the Deus Ex games are both really high quality, although the second one was received mixed, I'd say. And a lot of people want to see the finale of the trilogy, the Deus Ex trilogy, so maybe we'll see that. But maybe Square is just cutting their losses and be like, these studios, okay, yeah, the players might like them, but they're making us nothing. So
yeah, I think it's a lot like the Hitman stuff, where like Hitman was very popular, but it wasn't generating the sort of money they want.
Yeah,
sort of thing. And like to someone like Embracer, it's going to be perfect.
Yeah, Embracer are kind of like
it's almost like a AA sort of thing.
Yeah,
that is kind of their.
They're kind of like a Costco, where it's going to like in bulk. We're going to make money because we have so much. And it's like, okay, if a studio only makes 10% back on investment, fine. It's not like Square or Capcom where they're expecting like 100% return on, okay, we put 100 mil in, we want 200 mil out. So maybe we'll see. I think Embracer is a wait and see, because they just keep buying and we see so little output. And I'm sure we're going to get to this crescendo moment where all of their like 100 studios, because they say they're working on over 100 AAA games, I think.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if these are the kind of like the crown of
Embracer Group.
Like everything they're trying to do. Yeah. Especially like the Tomb Raider franchise, because I mean they've got some interesting studios. I didn't know they bought Dark Horse. Yeah. That's interesting. They own like the comic book company. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Obviously they got Gearbox.
Yep.
They've got Deep Silver who do like Saints Row and stuff like that. They have a fair few kind of interesting, fairly reliable studios under them. I like these three are just going to add to that, and I think they will probably head up and be like the focal point.
Sure.
If they can get it right. It's
a sit up and pay attention thing. If they ever do their press conference and they've got a new Tomb Raider, like that's a moment to this is a series that sold nearly 100 million copies across all the entries. Like they're not messing around. Those are big ass games.
Yeah.
And Tomb Raider isn't like, they've been buying a lot of old IP, but Tomb Raider isn't stuck in the past. It's really not. Like it's kind of it's a franchise that you can reinvent, because Lara Croft transcends time. It's not this weird character that was stuck in the 90s like I don't know, Sly Cooper, where that's a tough sell to reinvent that and bring it back today.
Well, I think that's where the interesting thing is, and I think this is where my interest is kind of peaked on this, because Crystal talked recently about the next stage of the Tomb Raider stuff was bridging between what they've done now in this last trilogy and bridging to the old games sort of thing, and kind of rearranging it so like the old games is what she becomes, and this trilogy is her origin story, and they're bridging to that now.
So we might get some dinosaurs soon.
That'd be sick. Yeah. But I would imagine they're going to have the creative freedom that they crave going through this now. So I'm really excited for Tomb Raider at the very least.
Right. So in your mind, this is a net positive for the studios that have been sold?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there have been so many. I think it said there's like 50 IP that they've got that just have not been touched in ages now. And people want to work on certain things, and obviously Crystal did not want to work on Avengers the way Avengers was. So actually being able to do relatively what you want with your own creative freedom, and I feel like they've earned it. They did a fantastic job with Tomb Raider. Like I would just kind of be like, sick, as long as it does well, do your thing.
I wonder what we're realistically going to see out of Crystal in the short term, because if they are working on Perfect Dark and they are making up the majority of that workforce, so I think they're about a 300 strong team at CD, and I wonder what kind of scope they have to work on anything else in the meantime, or if they're just going to put something in pre-development maybe and work on some ideas now that they have.
I'm pretty sure the new Tomb Raider is in pre-development. I'm pretty sure that is the next thing. Because do they work on anything else now?
At the moment, I don't know. Obviously, they're still supporting Avengers. I'm sure it's a small ghost team.
I'm sure that was top.
Yeah. And they've probably sent a few hundred at least to work on Perfect Dark.
They haven't made anything but Tomb Raider since 2005.
Okay.
So I would imagine it's Tomb Raider, unless they have. Well, they did also make like Legacy of Kain and Gex, but like that's stuff that's probably not coming. I would imagine they'll split between Perfect Dark and Tomb Raider.
That's interesting.
And
I mean, yeah,
if Tomb Raider does well,
you can't let Tomb Raider just sort of sit. You need to be working on that.
No.
And Eidos, I mean, they could do anything. Hopefully, I think go back to Deus Ex and maybe they could touch up those last two games and chuck them out, maybe on Game Pass. Just like get people interested in Deus Ex again, because they didn't sell brilliantly, but they're kind of like, I'd say they fall into that category of Prey and Dishonored, where it's a niche, sim heavy game. That is a tough sell, but if you can just get it in people's hands, then you might make some more fans.
Yeah, and like I genuinely hope that they can make Guardians too, because that was such a good game.
Sure.
And under new management, maybe the marketing for it could be better. Maybe the performance aspects and stuff like that could be a bit better.
They've got momentum now, right? Because those games are now it's like a cult classic already. Where it's like, oh my god, you haven't played Guardians? It was such a good surprise.
They did
2021.
They did Thief as well, which is in their back catalogue, and they worked on the last Tomb Raider game as well.
Okay.
So
they did the lion's share of the work on Shadow. They're the one that's more interesting to me because they have been chucking out things at a consistently high quality, whereas Crystal Dynamics did slump with Avengers, and this weird move to work on Perfect Dark. We have to see how it works out, but it just seems like an odd one for me that they're happy sort of working as a sub studio under the initiative. You'd think like they're a prestigious studio. Why would you want to be playing second
From the
fiddle?
sounds of it, they're the lead on it now.
Kind of, but it's still going to be a game by the initiative.
I would imagine it's the initiative and Crystal.
Sure,
I would imagine they get but it's weird because it kind of does beg the question: what happens to the initiative now? Because from the sounds of it, the plan was that Crystal was going to get picked up by Xbox and kind of replace that, because the guy at the head of the initiative is ex-Crystal.
Indeed, yeah.
So,
although I think he left recently.
He left,
as in he left the initiative recently.
Oh,
yeah, wasn't he one of the they've had an exodus there at the initiative. Interesting thing. I'm sure at some point we'll get the full scoop on what's going on at the initiative and Crystal. We had those leaks come out about staff leaving, and then it was kind of, there were two opinions on it. It was like, oh, it's fine, don't worry about it. Crystal Dynamics is making the game. The initiative doesn't have to be this giant workforce. And then there was the other spectrum where it's like, Microsoft, you've bigged up this quadruple A studio. It's not turning out that way. Why are you outsourcing all the work to a third-party studio when you have so many internal teams?
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on.
There is, yeah.
But okay, so I think we can both agree it's been a net positive for the Embracer Group and the studios that have just been acquired. Maybe a bit more freedom, a little less pressure from such a monolithic publisher where it's a big name, Square Enix, and working for a Japanese team. I'm sure there's some culture clashes in what they expect, and it's a big reason why the Sony team has tried to make itself more global, move to Europe.
But
what do we think about Square Enix? What does it mean for them?
I think Square is in a kind of weird place. Like you said, they're bungeeing quite a lot between, just releasing some incredible stuff like the Final Fantasy remake and whatnot, and Balan Wonderworld, and what was it called? Final Fantasy Origins,
Strangers in Paradise.
Yeah, something like that. Like they're in a very weird place, and I don't know if it's a case that they just need to take a step back and like go back to kind of basics and do what it is they do well. But I really don't know. Outside of Final Fantasy, I'm not overly sure of what like they kind of offer.
No, I'm with you. So I'm actually going to read this out. So they in their press release they included the purpose of the transaction, right? So this is letting their shareholders know, why did we sell these studios? And I quote, "The transaction will assist the company in adapting to the changes underway in the global business environment by establishing a more efficient allocation of resources." It's an interesting choice of words. So they clearly think that those Western studios were inefficient in how they spent money, which is probably quite fair, which will enhance corporate value by accelerating growth in the company's core businesses in the digital entertainment domain. So they clearly don't see them as core businesses. So that for them would be live services at this point and Final Fantasy, effectively. I mean, more broadly, because I know their biggest earner is, one of them is Final Fantasy 14 at this point. So
sure, yeah.
In addition, the transaction enables the launch of new businesses by moving forward with investments in fields including blockchain, AI, and the cloud. Okay, those are three things that none of us assume or associate with Square Enix, at least not at this point in time.
No.
The move is based on the policy of business structure optimization that the company set forth under the medium-term business strategy unveiled on May 13th, 2021. And so that was kind of after the separation with, who's that not Swedish team? Norwegian team? Finnish team? Who's this Hitman team? IO. Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like they're like, these guys don't really make us a lot of money. It's a waste of our time and resources marketing and developing and managing these games. It's very different working conditions, especially over in North America, especially in Canada, where in Japan, you can probably keep your developers in 6 days a week for like 12 hours a day and no one bats an eyelid. If you do that in the States, you're going to get 8 articles about how you're an oppressive overlord. And they've been accused of all sorts, bullying CD into making the game that they didn't want to make. They've been accused of wasting series like Deus Ex. It's like, what are you doing with these franchises? Yeah. And they're like, well, this isn't worth the hassle. And we're going to double down on what we do already, which is effectively Final Fantasy and its spin-offs.
Well, I'm just looking at a list of their active franchises, and genuinely out of the list, I can pick Dragon Quest, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, maybe Bravely Default,
sure,
maybe Secret, like the Mana series,
kind of. Yeah, there hasn't been a new game in that.
No, they're just getting a remake. Drakengard, maybe because Nier, but like there isn't a new Nier game. It's a kind of remake thing. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's a lot of nothing. It's a lot of meh.
They're indie games, and I say that in quotes because they're not. I mean, they're published by Square Enix, but their indie games are consistently excellent. So that's things like Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy. They did as well. Those 2 like old school JRPGs, like PS1-esque. Mm-hmm. Well, I can't remember the name of them. What are they called? Oh, I cannot remember.
I know what you mean.
I'll look them up while you talk to me about what do you think about them starting new business ventures in blockchain, AI, and what was the other one? I can't even remember.
The metaverse?
No,
stuff,
the cloud.
Oh, right. I really don't know, because it's I keep likening all this stuff to microtransactions in that when used appropriately, it's it's all fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but these companies don't do stuff like that properly. They do it in a scummy, money grabbing, predatory way for the most part. And anytime any company is just like, yeah, we're going to get into NFTs and the metaverse and stuff like that, it's just alarm bells for me. It's just absolute alarm bells. I'm not. I don't know. I'm not confident with anything on that side of stuff. It just feels like that's what's popular at the minute. So we're just gonna kind of try and force our way into this. I still don't really get, like, we talked about Kojima wanting to do cloud gaming stuff. I don't really know what the benefit is. I don't we haven't. I think we've seen it with Flight Sim where they've got like the active weather and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In certain locations and whatnot. Other than that, I don't know if anyone knows what the capabilities and what you can actually do with that sort of stuff, other than having it be where like live events happen.
Yeah. Or
something happens in game, and if you're not awake and you're not playing it or whatever, you're gonna miss out, and that's it. You miss it completely.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's such an unknown because no one's doing it.
No, I know what you mean. It kind of feels like when
weird.
the Wii came out and everyone jumped on the motion control bandwagon without even asking,
Mm-hmm.
like, is that why people like the Wii? Or, was it just...
And it absolutely wasn't.
Magic in a bottle, and then they couldn't recapture it because they weren't making the right kind of games to go along with it. And I do think that this blockchain NFT thing, it's backfired for a lot of studios, and they've had to backtrack and pull it out of their games. From Dying Light 2 had to backtrack on it. And
so it's just being done lazily. It's not being done in an interesting way.
Yeah.
Like you've talked loads of times about having it so like these NFTs are like individual skins that people can have, but it doesn't seem like that's ever something that's been done.
Yeah, this whole UB Quartz thing is about like game ownership. So it's about owning a piece of the game. And it's like, that's an obvious fail, because if the game fails, then your thing is worth nothing. So it's kind of like bribing the players to keep their skin in the game. Literally.
It's like, that's what Peter Molyneux did like 15 years ago with that game, wasn't it? Whereas the first person who does whatever it was in the game gets complete ownership of it, and it meant nothing because the game absolutely fucking stank out.
But I could see it feasibly being a cool tool in a game like Diablo, where there's only, when the game launches, let's say 1,000 of this particular weapon, and there's no way to remove it. There will only ever be 1,000. It's a digital footprint, so it's not like if someone uninstalls the game that particular weapon disappears. No, it's like blockchain works that you can't hack it, you can't replicate it, you can't duplicate it, because if you were to duplicate it, say you hacked your own console to get a copy of this weapon, what it means is it would check all the other nodes, right, that are monitoring this blockchain, and it would cross-reference and be like, no, where's this? Why is there 1001? Delete it. So it's really clever, and I can see it being interesting, but that's a gameplay mechanic, and that doesn't make a developer any money. And if I fear that instead of looking at the tech as something that could make gameplay cooler, they're looking at it purely, as you said, as a way of just getting more money out of the consumer. There used to be lots of things that developers and publishers would put into, say, the game box, right, to make it more attractive and charge you an extra £5 or £10 or dollars, whatever it might have been, like an in-game map or a keychain or whatever, get the ultimate edition. And people aren't doing that anymore because they're buying digitally. Okay, well, how do we monetize the digital purchase more than we currently are? Like, how do we keep the base price still £60 to £70 or whatever your regional equivalent is, but still make more money? Okay, we're making a little bit on microtransactions, but that's backfiring. People aren't really... Again, that's not doing us any good. Okay, well, the season pass is good, and then people are kind of getting upset about that, and it's a lot of work to maintain the amount of content required, right? We're look at things like Halo, where they can't actually satiate the consumer's need for more content in that game. So it's like, well, okay, well, let's get on this new bandwagon. As you said, it's just a new hot thing. Let's try and make some money. But this is probably the first time I think collectively gamers have just been like, no, we will not have it. So
yeah, it's happening a lot over the last 6 months or so. Like so many times they've been like, well, what the fuck are you doing?
So for a publisher to say publicly to press, to their consumers, to their stockholders and be like, we're still pushing forward with this investment in blockchain. It's kind of, okay, maybe it's disappeared from the headlines on Kotaku for now, but it sounds like it's still coming. Like this wave of new ways of monetizing gaming and the metaverse and like all of these things, it's coming. We need to prepare ourselves for the next wave of games that have these things built in from the start and they haven't been jimmied in 2 years into development like we saw at Dying Light. You know, for them, they tried it. They're like, hey, we're getting in on NFTs. Isn't this cool? And everyone's like, no. And they're like, okay, we'll remove them. But if it's baked in from the start and you can't take it away, we might not be able to do anything about it. So we'll have to wait and see what shape it takes in the future of Square Enix games. If they're investing in the cloud as well, that insinuates that I assume it's all one and the same, the sort of cloud AI and blockchain technology. They want to get in on the metaverse. They want their players to live in their worlds. They've seen how much money they can make off Final Fantasy 14. They tried it with Avengers.
I wonder if that is the next sort of thing. Like, obviously, Avengers shat the bed because numerous reasons that we've gone over numerous times. But I do wonder if that's, you know, they look at, you know, Final Fantasy 16 as what it is. But maybe the next step after that, or, you know, a step in between is another kind of Final Fantasy 14 sort of thing. They wrap up 14 and then move on to whatever they could possibly call the next thing. And that's where like the blockchain stuff comes in, because then you can have, and this probably isn't how they're thinking, but then you can have limited time stuff. And that's how you can keep players interested, because the team that originally worked on 14 are now doing 16. So they're busy.
Yeah.
But in between, because I'm sure they'll get them back on the next thing, because 14 it is now so popular. It's had a massive resurgence after they sorted it out. In the meantime, the NFT stuff and like earning unique items and stuff like that are truly unique, and it's not just, you know, one of those things that's thrown at the wall to make everything sound interesting, like bloody Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
That's how you keep people kind of satiated. I could imagine you'll get, you know, if Fall Guys were to come out, you know, in 2 years' time, you would get the unique skins instead of having like a not the season pass.
No, yeah, the battle pass. Yeah, so
Battle Pass,
exactly.
yeah.
Instead of saying, okay, there's unlimited versions of this skin, but you have to get to level 50 of the battle pass. You say, oh no, it's the first 100 people who get to the end of the battle pass. Yeah. And you can imagine, like, if you're not fundamentally against it and you buy into that being fun, you know, you can imagine Twitch streamers being like, oh, I'm gonna race to be one of the first to get this.
Yeah.
And kids will love it.
I do imagine it will be both, because then it will be, what are the odds of me being in that group sort of thing. Someone's going to lose out. So I'd imagine they would have the battle pass as like, well, I still got this cool thing.
Sure, yeah.
But this very limited edition sick thing, I have to actually, you know, press hard to be at the top and, you know, be there at a certain time and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it would have to be both in that sort of situation. But like I said, I just don't think that they're, or any of the companies that have tried it so far, are actually thinking in any way, shape or form like that. They're just thinking quick buck. How can I put the least amount of work in and get money out of it, sort of thing.
Yeah. Own a helmet in Assassin's Creed, you know? Just bollocks.
Yeah, or just like, hey, you could own this picture. It's like, well, sick, I've just copied and pasted it, so mine as well.
Yeah, and I think a big issue with games is that the idea of an NFT is something that you can put in your secure wallet, wherever that might be, right? So if you're playing a lot of Ubi games or playing a lot of Square games, there might, like, how do these things talk to each other? There needs to be a shared world, a metaverse, whereby you can display your wares. You know, it's like come to my cool hangout, like like an Animal Crossing style thing, where it's like, this is where I'm going to display.
I was going to say Mario Kart, but yeah. Animal Crossing works just as well.
You just come into my little place and you can see all the shit that I've earned and accumulated. And then you can go to a local auction and see what people are putting up for sale. And it becomes a bit weird. Granted, this is a weird future, but I think it is the future. I think Facebook are well ahead of the game on the metaverse. You know, they're 1 foot in already. You know, jump in a VR headset and chat and socialize with your friends, and you can buy property in the metaverse and like with real money. And like it's coming. It's coming, and you're hearing it from all the execs. You're hearing it from Phil Spencer, who's been kind of critical about how it's been handled so far, but he's also like, the future is the metaverse. It's just people have been approaching it all wrong, where they've been trying to do it from an economic point of view, like how does it make me money? But Microsoft wants to tackle it from a like what's in it for the consumer, which has kind of been their MO for a while now. It's like, oh, look how gamer friendly we are, but we're still working on this stuff as well. And Sony have said that they're interested by NFTs and the metaverse. Now we've got Square looking at it. And you have to imagine Epic are looking at it. I mean, Fortnite seems like the perfect platform to put anything like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had a great analogy earlier when you said it was kind of like when the Wii came out and everyone jumped on motion controls. Yeah. Kind of feels a lot like that. I don't really I understand the appeal of the metaverse, but I don't trust that anyone's going to get it right for a good while. I don't trust that. You know, people are hoping for like Ready Player One.
Yeah.
And I do not. Fortnite, maybe? Fortnite seems like ready built for that.
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto.
Roblox, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Grand Theft Auto Online.
Sure.
Maybe. Otherwise, we know like PlayStation Home might be coming back, and that might be something you can do with that. Like, but I too many of these companies are just doing it for greed because there's money there. They don't actually have any tangible ideas or interesting ideas.
They haven't been able to pitch it to us, the people who would consume, use, pay for this stuff.
So I mean, even like the metaverse, the Facebook stuff, just looks like a whole load of bollocks.
It does, but then like maybe we're not the target audience. Like I hate to say it because I'm like I still feel young at heart, but I'm not 15 and I'm not engaged in these, with these Twitch streamers who are bringing in, hundreds of thousands of viewers, and
yeah,
and they all want to meet somewhere. Like they have this collective identity online through things like Fortnite, Roblox, and whatever else it might be, that whatever of the latest trend is that we're missing out on. The Minecraft, like there's these people who aren't like us who want to play a new game every month, and they want this online society, and maybe we kind of just need to hold on to as many traditional studios, traditional game developers who are going to make that AAA experience that we like, and accept that some, like Square Enix, wants maybe half of their workforce working towards this next thing, whatever the next thing is.
I mean, ironically, GTA 5 has GTA Online is the closest really to that kind of thing. Yeah, you said about Minecraft, and Minecraft can be definitely. Fortnite's a bit more difficult because of the nature of the game. It's not too much of a hangout, apart from when they actually do the hangout stuff. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if a GTA Online 2, for example, is that way geared, and that is more of the focus. We know Halo's kind of doing that, where like the online portion is more the focus, and the other stuff is going to be plugged in a bit later. So it you are right, it is definitely coming, but it is just the ideas behind it aren't there yet. It is just kind of throwing stuff at a wall.
I'm with you. Actually, it does feel like that right now. It feels like people are just throwing up these multiplayer experiences at a wall and seeing what sticks. GTA Online is a good example of a vibrant, like, living world. You jump into it and you don't have to leave that session really at all. Like you could spend your entire day there just in your apartment,
Like,
meeting
imagine
people,
if they do
doing social gatherings,
haven't-
starting a biker club, going to the casino. Like, there's loads of stuff.
Exactly. And like so many things have happened organically through that as well. Like the clubs and stuff like that were stuff that were happening before they put that in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was stuff people were doing off of their own backs and like with a group of friends sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then they made it a thing. But imagine like being able to do that, but being able to travel across multiple cities, being able to do that in Vice City and San Andreas and stuff like that as well. Like, I imagine that's what the next step for that is. And if they play the cards right, like they could absolutely be a leader in that. And people could be like, even stuff like the metaverse would probably be like, we want to be like that. And they probably already are, in fairness. They probably already are like, we want to kind of be like what Grand Theft Auto Online is, just without all the, the
murder. Yeah. Make it more child friendly. Like go play squash or badminton or tennis or volleyball or go to an arcade or like it's basically a more involved Animal Crossing.
Some middle point between Animal Crossing and GTA Online is exactly what they want.
Yeah.
Whether that's attainable because of such a huge mix of what people actually want.
Yeah.
But like I said, maybe Epic are actually better suited to, because of the platform they have with Fortnite already.
Yeah.
Maybe they're perfectly suited as well to have something like that because they've just started doing a no build mode.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a hangout mode or
maybe it's around the corner.
Comes.
Yeah. It's and maybe Square's right for doing this, but it feels like they're so far behind. Like they have Final Fantasy 14, but that is a very traditional MMO. There's nothing new age about it. I doubt the audience for that is that young. Like I want to say this is a guess. But I'm going to say that the average age of a Final Fantasy 14 player is a lot older than your average, say, Fortnite player. And like I don't know what they're going for, or whether they can maybe do it with maybe Dragon Quest Online, something like that, which has a huge fan base in Japan. But yeah, so I it's hard to say that you're worried about Square Enix because they do come out with bangers like 7 Remake, and I have every faith that FF16 is going to be good. But then I also think things like not Forgotten, what's it called? Forspoken. I think that looks like I mean, it looks at bang average to me, frankly.
Which is really disappointing because like it's got Amy Hennig and Gary Whitta on the writing team. Like,
yeah, I mean, they penned... Okay, so apparently they penned The World, kind of like George R.R. Martin did with Elden Ring. But they're not writing anything. I don't think they put any of the dialogue or the script down.
Just kind of like the lore and stuff,
I think, frankly, they were just there for publicity. I think they probably paid him a nice chunky sum to come into a room, set out the lore, and be like, we kind of just want your names on the product. And they're going to hand...
Well, yeah, it's kind of weird because I don't ever remember seeing their names on it. It's, someone has said it and I was like, oh, sick. I didn't know that sort of thing. So it's kind of weird, but that's what Square is. They are incredibly
weird. And
so like, I agree. I don't think they're in any kind of trouble necessarily. I just think they're in a kind of a weird kind of limbo-y, like, what's the next step? Are you just going to rely on Final Fantasy forever now?
And Dragon Quest, yeah.
Kingdom Hearts, I guess, because that does well.
It does. I mean, we've now seen that Kingdom Hearts 4 is in full production. So, yeah, who really knows?
That's such a weird
they're kind of like verging on Konami territory where they're becoming like a bit of a target for the press and for gamers. Like they can't do anything right at the moment. And they need some wins. And to be honest, you could see this as them doing something good for the gaming community. Be like, we can't do anything with Tomb Raider. We're not willing to just make that traditional AAA game that sells 10 million. Like, we want more than that. Here you go. And they did it with IO, and I think a lot of people were happy about that. So.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of the good stuff around Square has kind of happened despite them. With like the IO stuff, this Guardians kind of was well received despite
them,
despite the poor marketing and stuff like that. Like, Square doesn't seem to be the reason that Square is doing well at the minute, or any of the good stuff around Square. they're not really the reason for it, and it's kind of bizarre, and they've just lost a lot of the reason that there was promise around Square because of Tomb Raider, of Guardians, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for the teams that have just left them, because I mean, look at what IO did after leaving them. Like, they've gone from strength to strength, and now they've got James Bond license. Like,
yeah,
that's going to be very cool. I'm very interested to see what they do with that. I can only imagine what. Granted, it's not quite the same situation because they're not all going independent and they're not all going self-published and whatnot. But it's an exciting time for them because they must be looking at IO and being like, yeah, they did cool stuff and they kept their IPs. We're getting to keep our IPs for the most part that's what it looks like. The only one I think that got mentioned that was really muddy that we didn't really get an answer on was Sleeping Dogs. Because we're not actually sure.
It wasn't mentioned if the IP was sold along.
Yeah. It doesn't even sound like anyone in there fully knows at the moment.
I can't see that one coming back. Obviously it would be a cool like mic drop moment at a presser if someone was to bring that game back. But I don't. That seems like a massive gamble. Especially,
I mean, if anyone's going to do it, it'd be Embracer.
Yeah, that's true. It is their level because that game I don't think could sell in China. So it's like you're eliminating a huge chunk of the market now because console gaming's on the rise there, and that has no appeal because I think it was quite pro Hong Kong if I remember. I don't know. Like it would get a bit weird politically.
I mean, it was set in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be difficult.
Like how you make a game set in Hong Kong today without it referencing the political stuff going on there. I would love to see. I actually really, really, really like that game. It's one of those few cult classics where it's like, oh yeah, I did play that and I did like that. Because I missed the boat on a lot of them. But yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. And Square also said that they're going to continue their publishing partnerships with, is it Don't Nod who do Life is Strange?
Yes.
Is it? Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
There's two studios because one does the offshoots.
Yeah.
And one does the core series.
I can't remember.
Either way, they're going to continue publishing.
I'm pretty sure Don't Nod are the mainland ones. I think Don't Nod have moved away from Life is Strange.
Okay.
I think it's the other studio that's taken over Life is Strange now.
Okay. Well, they're still going to continue their partnership with Life is Strange and Outriders as well. And I think Outriders is continuing
I forgot about that.
To continue to get support through People Can Fly. I don't think People Can Fly are owned by Square. I think it's just
they're not, and I fully expected that they were going to get picked up.
But definitely not now.
Really bizarre.
Yeah.
Deck 9. Are the other.
Okay.
And they're doing the remake. They did. I think they fully did the last one. Not sure, but yeah.
But it's just interesting in this age of acquisition to see one of the major players contract so dramatically over the last couple of years. You know, losing IO and then losing the 3 Western studios.
Yeah, and I think it's, because we're both talking about it. I think it's worth mentioning, like, with all the acquisition stuff, we've both been very much, especially over the recent ones, we've been a bit.
Yeah. I've definitely been a bit doom and gloom about it.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is very different because it's not, this isn't taking anything away from anyone. This is, again, it's another IO situation where it's like, well, we don't want them.
Yeah.
And they're just going to die here, so someone else take over, sort of thing.
Yeah.
This is, like we said, like it seems really positive for the studios that are leaving Square. And I'm just really excited because I hope that they get to kind of do what they want to do again.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Yeah, I mean, it has to make money, but maybe it just doesn't have to make as much money as if they were under Square. I mean, we'll see. Again, this is kind of just like we're making these assumptions that Embracer Group is a bit more of agnostic towards what their studios are doing, and they're this happy-go-lucky company, but we don't really know that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Tomb Raider is now the biggest license they own
Yeah, yeah.
because it's easily bigger than Borderlands.
I suppose because of the time, but I think Borderlands,
Yeah.
like recent Borderlands, would sell more than a recent Tomb Raider. So,
Probably, yeah. But then, Borderlands movie coming out as well, for sure. So I was going to say Tomb Raider's got movies, but Borderlands are about to have a
Exactly, yeah.
movie.
Borderlands is kind of on the up, It's like, and Tomb Raider
Potentially, yeah.
kind of needs an injection of new ideas and maybe a huge amount of marketing to bring it back to that pinnacle status.
Yeah, and it from them saying they want to bridge between what they did now and what the old games were, like they are definitely in an interesting place to be able to do that, and hopefully now they're going to get the creative freedom to do that without like you said, the worry of Square breathing down their neck being like, sell 20 million or you're fucked, because they have some unrealistic targets over there.
Yeah, they do.
But I think overall, like keep saying, it's good for the people departing. It's probably good in a way for Square because they've got an injection of cash that they might not have foreseen that they were going to get after Avengers, with Crystal not really doing anything. You're not going to be releasing anything for a minute. Eidos, God knows what they were working on.
Yeah.
After Guardians, like hopefully they get Guardians 2, but
who knows
about that
who
one for
really
now.
knows, yeah.
I'd be kind of shocked if Square get to make another Marvel game. I'd be a bit surprised if they did.
Yeah. Although they've still got the Disney partnership, right? Because they've got Kingdom Hearts. It's just an odd situation all around. I mean, it feels like everyone's got a Disney partnership at the moment.
Sure. I mean, they're the OGs. They had the OG one.
They got Mickey. Yeah, no one else gets Mickey.
Yeah. I mean, Kingdom Hearts is Kingdom Hearts. Yeah. I like Kingdom Hearts. It's weird.
It is weird.
But
I'm surprised that's not a movie franchise, to be honest. I feel like there's a big market for that. Like you'd think by now, like Disneyland Japan or Tokyo would have a Kingdom Hearts ride or something, But there hasn't been any crossover with those two worlds outside of the games.
Yeah. And it's weird because it sounds like... It essentially sounds like they're trying to make Kingdom Hearts the Disney World of video games, because they're going to have... Apparently, they're going to have a Star Wars level this time.
Interesting.
Which would be sick.
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to that. I wonder if they have like
Marvel,
an Avengers level or something. Like maybe they could do the Simpsons now.
They could, yeah. They could.
That would be cool. Man, these new Kingdom Hearts games are going to get really interesting with the shit they could do.
Yeah.
I need to play 3. I want to do that Toy Story one. That looks sick.
I mean, on a massive tangent, I would just love to see a new Simpsons game.
Me too.
There's a lot you could do with it. You could go back to the hit and run formula, or you could do maybe what South Park did with that sort of like RPG.
Yeah, I mean, the two things I would want is an immediate remake of Hit and Run, and just like polish it up and make it all sick again.
Yeah,
and re-release the Simpsons arcade game, because that was fantastic.
Sure, yeah, the
you
two winners.
Can't play that anywhere, I don't think.
Yeah, I can just imagine having a like Earthbound style game set in the Simpsons universe, where like you go through a character creator and you do create like a character from scratch, so you're not like
that'd be cool,
an established Simpsons character.
Yeah,
and then you just have this little sort of childish but somewhat mature adventure. Yeah. It could be really good. But anyway, all right. So let's wrap it up. So I guess we're quite happy about this. This is more of a trade than maybe an acquisition. It kind of feels that way, where it's like almost, some studios getting traded between two mega publishers, and it's a breath of fresh air from them being snagged up by one of the monolithic companies such as Sony, Microsoft, or Tencent.
I was genuinely expecting Xbox were going to snap up Crystal, and I did not want that to happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Happy.
Yeah, they have too much heritage on PlayStation, with Tomb Raider and.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even really that. It's just I want Xbox to stop for a minute and just actually release some games.
Release, yeah, indeed.
Just chill out for a bit.
Absolutely. All right, so good news all around, and we'll have to wait and see what this means for Square, and if they take a divergent path from just making traditional JRPGs and sort of dabble into the world of blockchain and NFTs and the metaverse and all that jazz. Again, AI is something that we didn't really talk about, but whatever that means, like what is a business venture in AI? I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I don't know from a gaming sense or an entertainment sense, or like obviously they're already in the business of AI. If you make games, you're developing AI and you have some skin in the game, but we'll have to wait and see what shape this takes. But any closing thoughts, Luke?
No, hopefully this just means we do get to see some franchises come back that we've been missing, like Soul Reaver. Like, I think you could do some really fun things with like a Gex now, because like it was that comedy, tongue-in-cheek, adult kind of similar to what Conquer was.
Sure, yeah.
I think you could do some really funny stuff with that. I just kind of hope that it means, you know, the creative people at those studios get to be creative again, and get to kind of, like I said, like, they must be looking at IO and like salivating at the thought of what they could like potentially do outside of Square.
Yeah,
because IO have gone from strength to strength since they've left Square.
Yeah,
and I hope it's the same for Crystal. Hope it's the same for Eidos.
Yeah,
because they are pretty important in the history of games. Like they've had some, you know, Tomb Raider is such a huge property in games. It was one of the first to really branch out into the mainstream, like Lucasade adverts in the movies and stuff.
The movies, Angelina,
they're fun.
Yeah,
I mean, even the newer one's fun, even though it was, why is there a bicycle race?
Yeah,
weird, but
agreed.
Yeah, I think this is probably going to be a positive. Like, we have to wait and see how it shakes out, but I think it's going to be positive for the people getting out of Square.
Yeah, I agree.
Clearly.
Oh, also, I think it's maybe going to bring some sense back into, or some, I don't know, it's a much needed sale, because it's not this massive inflated number. You know, we're not talking about billions and billions and billions and then tens of billions. It's like 300 mil for some licenses and some studios. That feels like a more traditional gaming acquisition.
Yeah, it's more comparable to like the Insomniac deal.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, but that's
you're going to see some hot takes around the internet, because Embracer also bought Gearbox for well over $1 billion. So it's like, what was it about Gearbox is worth so much more? And honestly, this is just the information we're not necessarily privy to or not willing to research, but maybe it comes down to, okay, yeah, their games sell well, but they also eat up a ton of money. Like, they cost a ton to make. Whereas Borderlands is probably a hell of a lot cheaper to make than a Tomb Raider. So.
Yeah, I also think it was, you know, Square probably did want to get rid. Like, you know, they'd already shipped them out to Xbox, you know, Crystal specifically to Xbox to work on Perfect Dark. So it probably was already a case that they were either looking to sell or looking to collapse them or whatever. So they were going to go for a cut price.
Yeah.
I fully expect if they didn't want to sell, the price would be way more. But
yeah. All right then. So happy days, I guess. We get to end on a positive note. That's a nice rare one.
I can't remember what the question was from last week.
Oh, well, I wasn't here, so if you don't remember it, I can't answer it.
No.
I
should have looked at it before.
All right. So what's a question we can ask? Okay.
Oh, wait, I do remember it, actually. It was a subscription service that you would get rid of.
That I would get rid of.
Yeah, that you have.
That I have, if I had to.
Mine's the WWE Network. I did it last week because I don't use it anymore.
Mine would probably be,
Netflix.
actually at this point, Disney Plus. I'm not sure really what I use it for. Because
I use Disney Plus more than any of them.
I've fallen off the Avengers stuff, and I think it's not Avengers, Marvel stuff. So
okay,
that's probably why. So I really only watch it for Star. They have that like partnership deal with Star. Sure. They publish all their films and TV shows, and they get some classics on there. But it's also got all of Family Guy, which is in The Simpsons.
Oh, has it?
No, sorry. It's got all of The Simpsons.
And Futurama.
Yeah, and Futurama.
Which is cool.
So yeah, I would probably get rid of
and
Disney
Gravity
Plus.
Falls. Watch Gravity Falls if you haven't. Gravity Falls.
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, dude. Watch Gravity Falls. It is phenomenal.
Okay.
3 seasons. It is one of the best animated shows ever made.
Interesting. All right. I'll check out that one. And then a question for next week, Luke, and to anyone listening out there. Aside from the main 3 franchises that were mentioned in the deal, which were Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and Legacy of Kain, what one franchise would you like to see brought back that was acquired in this acquisition? You mentioned Gex. I'm not sure Gex would be the one for me. I'm gonna have a good look through.
Yeah, I don't think it would for me either. It's just one.
Yeah,
I have a soft spot for.
Anyway, we'll have a look through. We'll answer it next week when hopefully Jordan is back. I'm not actually here next week. So back to a duo next week. And then hopefully we can all reunite the week after. Until next time, this has been Game for All episode 95. You can find us on the Eat for Sleep Eat Sleep Game YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Twitter at Game4_all. You can follow Luke at
LJ Maven, or just go to Eat Sleep Game. That's where I post all my stuff.
Lovely stuff. And you can check out Luke's latest video on Lego Star Wars, or his ongoing series of Let's Plays with Elden Ring and Tunic, which are very good. And we will catch you next time. Until then, goodbye.